Hi, Michelle Bormesh. Joey Scalzo. Say hi to Debbie. David Buchanan, you're always there. Hello, David. Hi, David. David and I go back and forth on Instagram. We got to do something, David. I promise. I promise you I will. So it's just obviously, it was a long day. Jen Barr is on. Jen Barr worked with us on Hockey Night in Canada, and that's where I had the opportunity of working with some great people. One being Kelly Hrudey, and Rudes knows how this works. So unlike some other people like Ray Bork or Eric Lindros, we kind of have to give lessons how this all works. He's supposed to know how this works. So he'll be joining on David Karp, Midfield Wolfpack A's. Yes, we know that. Anyways, we are Cody Bear. I kind of don't need you saying that, Cody. So we don't need that. Anyways, Life and Point. Hello. Rudes is going to come on, and Rudes doesn't really know this, but Groovy Grandma joined. Hi, Groovy Grandma. This is going to be a condensed version. There he is, right there. So let me just quickly, this is going to be a condensed version of Stock Talk. By the way, show 15, and Rudes is one of my favorite people in the world. I got my first goal on Kelly Hrudey. I don't even want to brag, but I got 20% of my goals on Kelly. So I don't want to knock his hockey goaltending too much, because he does hold the record for most saves ever in a playoff hockey game with 73. He's a big advocate of mental health. He's a lover of wines and Caesars. He's a terrible eater. Check his Instagram. If you don't follow Kelly, you have to check his Instagram, because he'll be like, hey, look, I'm having a hot dog in Pittsburgh, or look at my onion soup in Detroit. Islanders, Kings, Sharks, Hockey Night in Canada, where we work together, Sportsnet. He's everywhere. He's the great and lovable Kelly Hrudey. So let me bring Kel on. And by the way, thank you guys. It's hockey time, and I know we're kind of taken away. Hi, buddy.
Hi, buddy. Hey, I love the backdrop. That's an awesome looking office, my friend.
Well, this is the first ever at the cottage. So you're getting. I actually normally have fishing books and drinking games behind me, and I'm doing some stuff as you're with Sportsnet and Hockey Night. I'm doing some stuff with RDS, and I had to quickly change everything around. So I got my kids' swimming medals hanging in the background. I pushed everything aside and put up some pictures. I don't know if my Hrudey picture.
Look what I brought from my office for you.
And
And you sent me a text saying I should try it on. I don't think I can get it over my big pumpkin anymore, my friend.
We were Kelly on his Twitter. He was doing so. Kelly put this picture out. Was it just yesterday?
2 days ago.
2 days ago, the Montreal Toronto game.
Yes.
And Rudes is sitting there, and he's like, he puts out this tweet prior to going to air, and it's like, hey, I'm Kelly Hrudey, and I'm ready. Hockey is back. So excited. And you look like it was so great, because we're all excited that hockey's back, but we're all, of course, we can't just be like, hey, great, hockey's back. We're all nitpicking every picture that he had in the corner, and his mask was placed, and someone brought it up. What is that mask? Bring it up.
Okay, this is a mask I had. I wore this in junior bud, and for the Medicine Hat Tigers, my brother Ken, he painted this. Like, my brother's a pretty good artist, and so I wore this, I believe, for 2 years, 1 year for the Medicine Hat Tigers. The year I was drafted, 1979-80, and I'm just so proud of it. And I have two other masks that I wore as a kid in my office. I haven't showcased those yet on Sportsnet, but I will somewhere down the road. And by the way, what do you think of my complexion? I just did a hit with Sportsnet, so I'm still wearing makeup.
I was gonna say, your hair, the hair
Right?
is good, the skin's got. I didn't want to say anything. The whole skin, the complexion. It was I was gonna say it was gonna be wine. Do you have one?
Here. Oh yeah, definitely.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers,
yours
pal.
is. Hold on. Yours has more than mine.
Oh well, I knew we'd be on for a little bit, so I needed a bigger pour.
Well,
by the way, just for all the people watching and listening, PJ and I are best of friends, and I miss you, bud. Like, we used to go out every Friday night in Toronto and have dinner before Saturday nights, and special memories. And yeah, so this wine is for you. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. We soup.
And what are you drinking? Which wine tonight?
I am drinking Ripasso of Valpolicella.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I'm having Villa Antinori.
Villa Antinori. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorites, Villa
Yeah.
Antinori. I have it. I was sending a picture before we went to air. What wine should I have with Kelly tonight? We used to do so for people listening. Obviously, I could talk about Kelly. We'll get into some stuff. And Kelly didn't really. I'm not sure if he heard the beginning of this or not. Kelly deserves like a 4-hour show, but I'm gonna do a condensed version because Kelly is going to be on all the time in the playoffs. He's only learning that right now. And B, it's just, I know there's a lot of hockey going on and things are start back and there's games on and we don't want to take people away from too much. So Kelly's going to get like the full, how great of a human being he is and everything that he stands for over shows. I can't give it all to
condensed version.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to lie and off.
Yeah. The hair's combed every year. Like, this is a big day for you.
It's a big weekend, my friend. I'm
Yeah.
actually not working this weekend. I'd love to work Saturday and Sunday when the NHL returns, but you know the reason why. Caitlin is marrying Hayden, and so we're having the wedding ceremony right in our backyard, and then the reception itself will be in our driveway. We've tented our driveway, although it looks like the weather's going to be great. So, but we had to just in case, and weather's looking great. We've had a warm week. We're just so excited. Pete, you know Caitlin, she's such an amazing person, and she deserves everything good that's happening to her. And Hayden are such a lovely couple, and man, we're just so happy for her.
We're like, one of the things that I love about Kelly is when you hear him talk about his family. I know it, but we know it, and we say it to each other, but I like people watching and hearing about it. One of the cool things about doing this is you get to show people how they are not on the camera. And this is kind of you and I just shooting the shit, having a glass of wine.
Yeah.
You wearing makeup, which you normally do when we go out, which is cool. And just kind of like, but one of the things that we talk about, things that get us happy or things that we get mad at or whatever. Yeah. But the one thing that gets you, and it tells you a lot about a person, you smile, and you can't tell. His face gets red, but there's so much makeup on his face right now, you can't tell. But when he brings up his family. And one of the coolest things is, I know he looks younger than me. Again, it's makeup, but he's a grandfather, which is one of the coolest things that you see. We'll talk about your poor eating on Instagram, but what's that like? Just being the grandfather.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get a little bit serious here, but first of all, it's amazing, right? Just absolutely amazing to be a grandfather. And the one thing that I think I can speak for me, and I think a little bit to Donna, is that, you know, when you have your own children, you know, you love everything about it and you love all the special moments and you take great pride in everything that they're doing and so on, PJ. But I think the one thing at least when I was a dad, I can't speak for all the people out there, but I really felt a responsibility also to pay bills and do all that sort of stuff. And so I think that at times I might have been sidetracked, whereas being a grandfather, I just love them to death. And, you know, we play little games and I posted a thing about Stinky Toes about a week ago, and just all these magical things that you can just really drink in and experience and love and cherish. And so that's my feeling. I think it seems easier as a grandparent, but nonetheless, you know, I love being a parent, and, you know, I have 3 daughters, as you know, Peach, but this experience is so unique. And maybe because of my age, I'm almost 60, eh, bud? And I'm becoming...
That's why the makeup. This is nothing on this. You got caked up for an Insta Live. That's cool. Hey, whatever you got to do. Whatever you got to do.
I was talking to a friend about this a couple of years ago, and that I think the age we're at now, we get more reflective, and, you know, we cherish everything more. So it's just, we're in a really good spot in our life right now, bud.
The great Kathy Broderick, another one from Hockey Night Canada, just joined in. She's actually commenting on your makeup too. So for everyone that knows, it's crazy times, and speaking of Colby Armstrong today as well, who's working with Sportsnet, and a lot of guys are doing things differently. So we'll get to the games in a second, but you're so used to seeing Kelly at that Hockey Night Canada studio or the Sportsnet studio, and you work in a group, but you're now doing this from home. So I heard you had I know with the other guys, a crew comes in, set up. So what's a day like for you now that in TV times in your room or in your office, and how is it working?
Okay, so it's different. It's unique. You don't have. I've only worked one game, Peach, so
Yeah.
I'm still learning, and so you don't, or I don't have the pleasure of maybe looking over at you or Ron or Elliot or somebody and feeling the vibe or the
Right.
the energy, getting it from a friend on the desk, and so. It seems different that I close my doors. I have all the equipment in there, and you have to look directly at the camera. And I have a little iPad off to my left that's where I watch my feed. So there you go, right?
Yeah, that's our life now, right?
Yeah,
We're like, I quickly look down for a quick word or note, and then you're
right.
staring at your camera,
Yeah,
which is a
and
phone.
I have my feed that uploads to my iPad, and that's where I actually watch the replays. And so I'm just getting used to the whole sort of thing. I watched Colby last night, by the way, and I watched Cassie when she did the Calgary Edmonton game, and they both did fantastic. But I noticed the three of us had the same thing. So we have a little monitor right here, like I said, to our left, and we're always getting caught glancing at it. And I think that's just what it's going to look like for a while until we sort of get into a rhythm or a cadence. But nonetheless, it's still great. It was different though, as you're so true, Peach. So I've been going to Toronto for 25 years, if you can imagine. Still 4 years when I was a player, when you scored your infamous first goal on me.
20%. Imagine if you kept playing. I would have had like 7 goals.
Oh my gosh. So the people don't know this, but back when we both worked for CBC and Hockey Night, we'd go into CBC or into Toronto in September, and we'd have to go to all these advertisers with the agencies and so on. And you and I were always paired together, and we'd try and sell, come sponsor on Hockey Night in Canada, and we'd give our little spiel, and you would always make so much fun of me, and you'd be rolling around on the ground like.
We do this. So the way Kelly and I would have to go to, a lot of people did, and our team was Kelly and I because we have a great relationship, and we'd go to, and Kelly has so many accolades, and everyone, most Toronto fans watching, or Montreal remembers the when Montreal beat 93, beat the Kings in the Cup in the Desjardins hat trick. But you're also, Toronto fans remember Kelly and standing on his head against the Leafs that year. And there, of course, the Islander days, but it's just, so we go to these events and we're trying to sell Hockey Night in Canada and please advertise on our show. And that's how it kind of all works in television. And Kelly would go in and he always gives like this, it's like Obama speaking, like everything's so good, everyone loves him, everyone's cheering. And then I'm like, what the hell do I have to follow that up with? So I try and imitate my goal on Kelly and how goaltending was back in the 60s. And I do this big flop down like this. I fall to the side. And I talk about how I scored on a backhand from center ice and I went 5-hole on him. And anyways, one time was really funny. We're doing it. It's like October, November. And I had a lip gloss thing in my pants. So like I really flop up on my side trying to imitate how goaltending was. And I landed on my hip on it. I just wanted to cry. And everyone's like, what's this guy doing? Like, why can't he be more like Kelly? And I'm on the ground just crying, holding some, good times.
One of my great memories, Bud, was after game 1 in Vancouver, Canucks Bruins, and you and I did that TV show called Urban Rush.
The next morning.
What? You watched it this morning?
No, it was the next morning.
Oh, yeah, the next morning. I watched it a few nights ago. I was on YouTube, and I came across it, and I watched it in its entirety. I was like, holy cow, were we ever having fun back then? And that was awesome. Good hockey talk, but, our friendship, just you could really see it through and through.
Well, just one goal started it. One goal. So, Hrudey, hockey's back. We love the game's changed obviously for lots of reasons, and one of the things that we have the luxury of doing, and especially on the national level. And Kelly works for those. Kelly also does the color for Calgary Flames. Yeah. So Kelly's working like every night, every second night, whether he's watching other teams to see who the Flames are playing next, or rehearsing the lines, or seeing the numbers. And it's you think it's easy, just like, hey, you know the Flames lineup because you know the Flames lineup. But the other teams, you got to watch them play to see, because you see a number, you got to know everything about them. And so that's what Kelly does all year long. And when I was on hockey night and sports stuff, we just watch hockey. And there's nights where, I don't mean to take away from the job, but there's some nights, a Tuesday night, where I'll just pick two poor teams at the time. Let's just say Florida is playing Phoenix, and it's just like, it's so boring. Like, it's just like there's no atmosphere, and it's kind of tough. I'm concerned with hockey being back. That's a little bit what we're going to be facing here. Like, what's your thoughts about watching the first few games besides the one that Cass did, the Edmonton Calgary one?
Yeah.
The rest of them have been a little tougher to watch.
They have been, but you know what? Actually, I think that they've still been higher quality than I expected. Okay. I thought they were going to be really sloppy and not very interesting. So I've kind of looked at it like, I give the guys a lot of credit because they only had 2 weeks. And, I also give the management and coaches a lot of credit because they definitely made the guys aware of the importance of having a good exhibition game, or play as well as you can anyways. Right. Because, a best of 5, and they start on the weekend. As you and I have talked about many times on the set, you're in a game, you might be winning 4-2 with 3 minutes to go in the second period. All of a sudden, you take your foot off the gas for a minute. Then it's a 1-goal game. And then 5 minutes in the third period, and it changes everything. You sit down in the dressing room after, you go, what just happened? That was so quick. And that's my point, that there could be a team or 2 or 3 or 5 out there that they're down 2-0 already on a best of 5, and there's no chance of regrouping in most cases in that situation. They could be out in 5 days, and they'll be like, what happened? We're a good team.
As a goalie, do you feel that in game?
Oh yeah. The same range of emotions as everybody. There were times where I would feel really great, and all of a sudden I'd let in a stinker of a goal, and I could feel the crowd just sort of sink as well. And that would be, sometimes you could dig yourself out of that ditch, but sometimes you just couldn't. And you felt that emotion as well. And you had to battle through, and it was tough. I mean, that's one thing about playing goal. And I know you had a really tough job what you did, Peach, but you've got to find a way to, whatever just happened, forget about it. Whether that's a great save or giving up a horrible goal, you've just got to power through.
So what would my goal be qualified as?
Career ending.
Well, I got you into TV. 20 years of TV out of it.
I joked, and that was one of the things I joked when we'd go on those sales tours, that, here PJ scores on me. He's got his back to me, and I see stock on the back of his jersey, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never even heard of this guy. I'm tired. It's not true, but I like to tell the story.
Who you're going back, I'm always, because the goalie's left on that. 2 things that I hate. Well, one more or less. One of my pet peeves is when guys make a mistake on the ice and the goalie gets scored on.
Yeah.
When I played, I always went and tapped the goalie or whatever. Yeah. Nowadays, it's like everyone just splits off like this, and no one has anything to say to anyone. It's like, I had my man. Like, I don't know if it's different, or it's like when there's a goal scored, listen, no one ever makes a mistake on purpose.
Yeah.
But something happened. But when I find today goals get scored on, it's rare you see someone come back and tap the goalie like we used to.
So true. And, I would be so mad at myself after giving up a goal, but I really appreciated when somebody would come down and tap me on the pads. And I think of my good friend Tony Granato. Man, in LA, I must have given up like 10,000 goals in my 8 years there. And every single time Tony was on the ice, he'd come down and tap me on the pads, and it's okay, Rudes, and give me some sort of words of encouragement, and I love that. I mean, yeah. But Tony was a unique guy, right? So I'd be wearing my mask, and after a game, if we'd win, maybe because of his Italian heritage, but he'd come up and give me a kiss every time, and I loved it. It's awesome. I was like, yeah, I like this guy so much.
So does it? Okay, two things then. This was two things from before. A, you ever go by the bench and be like, so intermission, not intermission, let's say a commercial or whatever, and hear it from the guys?
Oh, yeah.
Anyone ever come by and be like, Rudes, you Swiss cheese, Ukrainian, stop the puck? Or
are you talking about the opposition?
No, your team.
Oh, my team? No. One time, Luke Robitaille, though, I think I was going for my second consecutive shutout, and we're playing at home, and it was like 3-0 with about, I don't know, 2 minutes to go. And Luke was good-natured, right? And he always had a real sense of humor. And he's yelling down. It's pretty quiet in the Great Western Forum that night. And he's, hey, Kelly, remember, shutout on the line. You're jinxing your goalie, right? You're not supposed to mention that word. And somebody on the bench must have said something because Luke jumped on the ice after when there's a whistle. And he comes racing down. He goes, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to jinx her. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking of. Yeah. But I do remember Chris Pronger, and that's why I asked if it was about the opposition. So we were playing in LA, and Pronger was playing for Hartford. And so he might have only been like first year in the league.
18, 19, sure.
Yeah. And so there's a delayed penalty. So I race to our bench. It's the second period, so I have to skate by their bench. And he's just giving me the gears, right? Hey, Hrudey, and he's saying all these swear words. And I'm skating back by him. I'm like, what is going on? Like, you're a first year or second year. Shut up. Like, it just doesn't happen that way. But I have one more story, again, with the opposition. So the year I blew up my ankle in LA in training camp, they convinced me to go down to the farm team in Phoenix and play a game and just test it out. Well, I found out it wasn't quite right. Anyways, same scenario. There's a delayed penalty, second period. So I think it was the Atlanta team in the IHL, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a great goal scorer at that level, right? And he had scored a couple goals on me in the game already, and I'm skating by him back to the net. He goes, hey, Hrudey, it's that easy to score in the NHL? And he just kept going and going and going. I said, enjoy the bus ride back to Atlanta, bud.
Well, okay. You ever give it to guys on your own team? Out of break?
Sure.
Yeah.
I was known for going after guys, right? And now again in my old age, I don't like conflict anymore. But even Wayne Gretzky, he wrote the foreword in my book, and he said how I wasn't afraid to go after guys. And I don't know. I think you can't do it. You can't manufacture it. It's got to be real, right?
There's a lot of players that you've played with and coaches that you had. The names are pretty. They're pretty amazing when you go back and look at the history of our game and the era that would really, I think, made a lot of the players of not my age, but a little bit younger than me, what we watched. I mean, you were with the great Islanders. You got to be with the LA Kings and finished with the Sharks, but the Sharks were a good hockey team as well. You played with some pretty big hockey teams over those years.
I was so fortunate. And, I was the luckiest guy in the world when I was drafted by the Islanders, PJ, because they had won their first Stanley Cup that summer. And so my experience was all around. And, I went to, training camp that year. And I wanted to make that's an important message to send, because back then, even though you were a second rounder, it wasn't guaranteed that you were going to training camp. It was just sort of like a handpicked.
Oh, hold on. If you were drafted, you might not even go to training camp?
Yeah, back then.
How old are you with that makeup on? Back then, why? Because the horse and buggy couldn't get you there? It's not that long ago, Rudes. No, there was no street to the rink from Alberta, so you'd have to just
dog sled, bud. So anyways, in 1980 when I was drafted, only the first rounders went. Only the certain first rounders went. Draft was in Montreal. Nobody else went. I was a second rounder, and I was in Edmonton playing ball hockey with my brother in the basement when I was drafted. But anyways, I was lucky enough to be invited to training camp. And so I'm around Dennis Potvin, Billy Smith, Brian Trottier, Mike Bossy, Clark Gillies, all Hall of Famers. and Bob Nystrom, Bob Bourne, Stefan Pearson, Ken Morrow. The list is endless around the people that I started off playing with, and just to watch and learn and study those guys, it was phenomenal. So that year, by the way, that first training camp, the first game, preseason game, was in Chicago, in the Great Chicago Stadium, and I know you remember that incredible building. And somehow I was the starting goalie. So Rolly Melanson was going to play the third period. I played the first 2 periods. Tony Esposito is the goalie at the other end, and I'm just in awe. And then after the game, the entire team, the entire Islander team, they take me to this pizza joint, and I shouldn't have because I was a little underage back then, but we had pizza and beer, and they just treated me like gold. Like I just couldn't have asked for a better experience. And then I went back and played junior for another year. But I was, to your point, and you were so fortunate as well. You played with so many incredible guys, and you get to know them as people. But it's kind of surreal to know that you know these people and you're friends with them.
They're the royalty of hockey.
Yeah.
And that time. And by the way, for those that are listening, check out, and we'll put more of it on. Check out Kelly's Instagram, because that's probably the best. And all the names that he just mentioned for me growing up were like the idols of the guys that you want to be, and they take him for pizza. That probably is what set him on the okay, I'm going to go to Detroit and have pizza. His Instagram is pizza, hot dogs, bad burgers, and onion soup. Hey, look, like it's the great Kelly Hrudey from Hockey Night in Canada, and he's having, I'm going to have chicken fingers and twirly fries in San Jose. So that's kind of what his Instagram's all about. Let's get to today. Let's get to, again, I didn't want to keep you long, but we're already going long, so who cares? So,
hey, hang on. Kathy Broderick is asking, what was it like as a goalie walking up the stairs in Chicago?
Or down.
The stairs were about this narrow, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't put they didn't hold your entire skate. So you're just sort of, and going down was the troubling thing. Going up was okay, because if you fell, it was no big deal, but going down, holy crap. And hey, Peach, one more thing about that old building in Chicago. Do you remember the towels you'd get after a game?
The yellow ones?
The little ones, and it's like they were Scotch guards. Like the towel didn't absorb any of the water. It just sort of, it was like a squeegee brushing it off your body. It was the worst experience ever.
It was sandpaper.
Yeah, it was. Little pebbles on it.
So, but that's how they. I know. I don't want to be telling the story, but I don't think I get fired from Instagram Live. But so these are all the tricks, the trades that other teams did. Like he's talking. You can't. Like you're coming up, you want to go down, you're running to the room, you fall down your stairs. You can't walk up. Like you want to run up to a shift. You want to go get on. Let's go. But now you got to walk up sideways like this. You can't get up. Side steps. Well, in junior, Michel Terrier used to coach the Laval Rock. It's the Titan de Laval when I was younger. And we'd get there for a game. There'd be sand on the floor in our dressing room. We couldn't get pre-game. We couldn't get any cold water. You can only get hot water. And our locker room was 5,000 degrees. Like, and then post-game, we couldn't, to take a shower, we couldn't get any hot water. Yeah. We only got cold water. Right. Or just before a playoff game, they paint the walls.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, just kind of, actually, one of my favorite stories, we're going on. I'm sorry, Kelly. Sorry, Donna. Good. I don't know if you're on the sideline.
Plenty of time, buddy.
Okay. So one of my favorite stories is, again, I love the stories of a little bit of different eras. And as Kelly's 72nd birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks, he talks about junior in his day. So now there was when I played junior, there was a couple of brawls. So what they did was they separated, imagine not the pregame skate, but the warm-up. Yeah. One team had the ice to themselves for warm-up, and then the other team had the entire ice for warm-up, because all kinds of stuff would happen. You have to hear stories about what it was like in Kelly's day when teams would steal your net. Or go ahead, Kel. Go ahead.
So true. Before I tell those junior stories about warm-up and the fights and the brawls and why it got to that point where they had to have the ice all to themselves, because of the brawls in warm up. I was, when you're talking about all those other things in the NHL, it reminded me when I first started in the league, again, because I'm so old, and
Yeah.
when the goalie, yeah, we didn't have water bottles, right? We weren't allowed water bottles. Can you imagine that? Like, that's a safety hazard now. Like, you can't refuel during the game. Anyways, when we first started to get water bottles, I won't name the city or the team because I'm past that. But when the visitor or the home team, they were responsible for putting your water bottle on the net, right? This one team, every single time I'd go there, well, it didn't happen very often, twice until I finally forget about it. They would put warm, soapy water in a bottle to drink. Like, they're clearly trying to mess with your mind. So I knew every time I went in that building, I had to have my own water bottle. But anyways, going back to those days in junior, two stories really pop out to me. My first year, we're a team of 17-year-olds basically, and we're playing Billings at home, and Billings had a pretty tough team.
What team are you?
We're Medicine Hat.
Okay. Yes. Put that up. Is that the Medicine Hat?
Medicine Hat Tigers.
Oh, that's a tiger.
Yes, come on. And so we're, I know you are. So we're in warm up, and we had this tough kid from Calgary, Mark Komanowski, and he's, patrolling center ice like you guys do, right? And he breaks his stick, his wooden stick, over the guy's nose on the other team. So massive brawl, and the police station in Medicine Hat in that old arena was in the same parking lot. So the brawl's going on, and then the police all come over. I think something like, 12 guys from each team were arrested. And so we played a game with like 7 or 8 guys, something like that. But the craziest was when we went to New Westminster, and they were tough. I mean, they ruled the roost back then, right? And so 3 things happened every single time we went to New West to play. They'd either come down and shoot on me, or steal all our pucks, or take our net. So, and we're young, right? We weren't gonna fight or anything. We're scared silly. And so I've never forgotten those things. And
so tell them about they steal your net and you still had warm up, or they took the pucks. What's warm up?
And so they usually steal after they'd shoot on me. They'd gather all our pucks taken away. So we'd go back in there and steal a few pucks back. And then to finally really bully us, they'd steal my net. So how are you going to have a warm-up without a net? People don't think these stories are true, but they are.
Oh, Captain Miserable said you retired on the. I just read the texts as they're going up, and thanks for giving notes. Nothing but great stuff about Kelly. Captain Miserable said you retired on this day. This was the day that you actually retired.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Somebody tweeted that. Yeah, that's pretty good memory. I really enjoyed. I embraced that day. I knew it was coming. I had known for about a year before that I was most likely that was going to be my last year, and I'm glad I quit. Kyle, yes, the beat beater in Medicine Hat. That's where I proposed to Donna. So good memories as well, buddy. And keep up the good work. I hope to see you down the road here, pal.
So hockey started. I was going to keep you on for a few minutes, but we're way past that now because this was our weekly thing, but now we're into it now. So
yeah.
Hockey started, and give me you worked the Toronto-Montreal game.
I did on Tuesday.
What's your? I've watched a little. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't watched all the games. There's 5 games a day. There's a lot to watch, and there's a lot of thought. You want to get everyone ice. Players haven't been to work out. What do you think of about what you've seen so far?
Well, there's so many storylines, and one about Toronto is that Nick Robertson, whether he's going to make it. Imagine that 18-year-old kid, and he's had a great camp, and he looked pretty good in that game. Although I thought his minutes were kind of protected, which makes sense. Toronto's, they're a talented team. You know that, Peach, but they're in tough. Columbus is a team that plays awfully hard and
healthy, and they're healthy now.
And they're healthy, right? Exactly. And so you look at the way in which they're gonna challenge Toronto, and we're really gonna learn a lot about the Maple Leafs, whether they have that mental capacity to play through when it gets really, really difficult. Because I think that's the only question all of us have, right? We know they're talented, they're deep in all areas, and I think that what the question is from the last few playoffs, can they play when it gets tough? And so that's going to be really difficult. Your guy, Carey Price, I thought looked really good.
He looked okay, Kel. He looked
No,
okay.
he, in Toronto, I thought had at least 4 or 5 really great chances in the first period.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I just think that there's so many storylines. Winnipeg, Calgary, that might be the best series out there, right? So I'm really excited about it. I'm going to have the weekend off, like I told you, so I can sort of get acclimated, watch some games on Sunday, and get up to speed for Monday.
I liked it. I think the hardest thing is being a player that played on. I love the crowd. I love the highs and lows of a game.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's out of our control because the way the building just turns on you, right? Like the way, like, and the Bell Center is the best in the league, I think, at doing it. The old Chicago Stadium had those moments. How they could just take over a game and influence how your next shift was going to be. They'll give you so much confidence, or if you're the opposition, you're so nervous. I think that's what's kind of missing right now. I thought that game, there's a lot of guys that did things that would do stuff to change the momentum of a game, to get the fans into it, I don't know how that's going to play out because there's no fans.
Hey, I've got a question for you. Because you're from Montreal, and when you played there and or when you came back there, whether it's in the Montreal Forum or the Bell Center, what were some of your favorite memories about the crowd and the experience itself?
There was, the best one I had was, it was hard playing there because I was so nervous. Like I wasn't good, and there was a lot of, until I got a little bit older, I cared what people thought about, when we're young, that's the biggest thing. You're so nervous because I didn't have a good game, and I'm worried what people are going to say about me. Yeah. And you're worried about how people, at the end of the day, you can't control any of that. But it takes a lot of young players a few years to get through that. And today, I picked my phone up while we're talking on it. That's a big thing. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all these things. People can tell you what they think of you. Yeah. And that's part of, like, you can't let that influence you. Yeah. Your first couple of years as a player, it did. And it influenced me. And I was nervous whenever I played. I signed with Montreal. I was so excited to sign with Montreal. And my experience was not as great. And a lot of it was my fault because I just wasn't as confident as I should have been as a professional athlete. A year later, I was a complete different human being. But unfortunately, it was a year later. So I wish I had the experiences that I had in Boston. I wish I could have helped make Montreal a successful team.
Why were you a different person a year later?
I went to Philadelphia, and I had guys like Rick Tocchet around me, Kevin Stevens, Eric Desjardins, Keith Primo, so many guys that just would grab. I'm a young kid, and I'm being a certain way, and they grab you by the ear. Hey, don't do that. I'm in the gym. I see a guy like Rick Tocchet working out. Well, hey, you better work out just as hard as that guy because he's 10 years, 15 years older than me. I better be working out harder. There's no way he should be doing more than me. I'm trying to make this team. He's a legend in the league. So the first couple of years, you don't really get it. You're like a kid in a candy store. And then if you really want to do it because it's a job, I think I learned after my trade from Montreal, I go to Philadelphia. I learned how to do my role a little bit better, and I thank all the people around me. Yeah, it helps. It helps, like having a coach like Bill Barber that puts you in positions to be successful. Yeah. Like one of the things that I hate was as a fourth liner, they put you on. You don't play. You have one shift, then you don't play for 2 hours, and there's 3 seconds left to go in a period, and they put you on. The games, you don't play almost the entire third period, and they put you on with 30 seconds left to go in the game because I understand it's my role, but you're young and you don't really understand it and you don't appreciate it. And it took me a couple years to understand that. Billy Barber understood that instead of putting the fourth line, which was, I was the fourth liner. First of all, I love Colin Campbell's my first one. I'm just saying. Billy Barber was like, instead of putting the 3 worst players on your fourth line, and the 2 worst, weakest defensemen together as a 5 unit.
Yeah.
Let's sprinkle these guys in the lineup. Let's take PJ instead of having him on the fourth line. Let's give him a shift with Primo and Recchi, and you know, it gets me involved. I can go hit everybody, and then maybe create a little bit more space for Recchi and just for a shift, but it keeps you involved. Whereas in Montreal, I wasn't used that way. In New York, I was at times, not so much when John Muckler took over, but it took until I learned how to do what I wanted to do and be confident in my own skin to do it. It took me a little bit of time, and that's where I had success in Boston. But the question, which was a long-winded answer, but the one memory about Montreal, which was really special, is I'm playing for the Boston Bruins. We're the #1 team in the East. We should walk over the Montreal Canadiens. We have 2 40-goal scorers. I think we have 3 30-goal scorers.
Yeah.
We're Detroit's in the West, and it's us in the East. I think it's 2001. We're looking to make a big move. And in the first round, Jose Theodore, it's the year he won the Hart. He was unbelievable. We walk into that building and just we lost game 6, which was the clinching game in Boston. My ears hurt so much.
Right?
So much. Like it's the Montreal fans, I love to bug them, and I bug them and I do French. I love to twist them a little. But they might not all, like we all say they get hockey. They might not all get it, but what they do get is the passion. Yeah. Like they are so, when there's a high in a game, they are high. And when there's a low, they're going to let you know. But that high, my ears rang for 5 hours after the game.
I agree. I've been in situations like that too. I love your story about Bill Barber too, about giving you some shifts with some better players, because I think what gets forgotten by most fans is that they don't recognize players like yourself. You guys were dominant when you were in playing as kids and so on. And Acadia, weren't you the captain?
Santa Fe. And you're like, let's not use me, but there's a lot of guys that a guy like Guy Carbonneau, who's a checking forward for the Montreal Canadiens, had 160 points and was the most offensive guy in the Quebec Major Junior League.
I know.
But if you want to play, you got to do this.
You got to do this. Nick Kipros was an example in the OHL when he played. I believe in his last year, he had something like 58 goals. So, and then, he's got to find his way and find his role. But, people don't realize. I just love that one time when I went out to Blueberry Lake when you had your 3-on-3. That, my gosh, that was so great. I still have that painting you gave me, by the way. But it was a great reminder for me, and I know it was an eye opener for all those other guys that had participated in that 3-on-3. Like you were by far the best player. Nobody was even in your league, but what reputation they'd think, oh well, PJ's like this fourth liner, and he's a tough guy, but the average hockey guy might go, but what kind of skill will he have? Well, you know what? You showcased it that day. It was just so beautiful to watch, and I think it was an eye opener. People out there like, holy, PJ's at this level, like that is phenomenal. Like I just loved it. I had a big smile on my face when you're weaving through everybody every single time you got the puck.
I'll send booze to you. I just got a text from Donna. Like, Kelly needs more wine. Will you please send some to him? That's why he's sending the compliment. Donna, it's on. I'll text her right now.
I don't need more. Look at that.
Yeah, you got the Massey. Yeah, and the Ruffino. Hey, so who do you like? Who do you like right now? Who do you see win? Who do you see winning this whole thing?
I think Boston's going to have a really good chance. I like Philadelphia a lot.
You like Philly?
I do like Philly.
Awesome.
Vigneault's done an amazing job, and they're deeper than people believe. Carter Hart is a special goalie, I believe. I like the way Pittsburgh was playing. I think their coach has done a remarkable job considering. The injuries and so on.
And
two things just came to mind. So I want to go back to one of my favorite stories about going back to Montreal and in the buildings, whether it's the Forum or the Center. One of the things I love to do before the game, when I would skate near center ice, I'd look over and spot Jean Beliveau and sitting there. That was so cool, right? Like he looked so regal. Yeah, cheers to that. Regal
Cheers.
and beautiful hair, and his suit was always amazing. And that for me, I got a real charge out of. Like I was like, holy crap, Jean Beliveau and his wife are here watching. And then I'll get back to these other teams. So I mentioned those teams. Like I said, I wouldn't want to play Columbus. Who out west is real? Oh, hey, what's that?
I look. Question for you though. I just saw this question. I think it was from Cruiser, Saint FX. Why do you think Toronto can't get over the hump, or can they?
Well, I think the market would have something to do with it. I mean, I've never played in a Canadian city. You have, and I just wonder if sometimes if the makeup of the group isn't really special, that pressure might be paralyzing, and you're worried about failing because you're worried about the backlash, and maybe that's not true, but it just seems to me that that's part of it. I also think that just from an outsider, the Maple Leaf fans are so incredible, and they put those guys up on a really high pedestal for not much, right? Like you don't even have to be a great player, and you're a superstar in that city. And
That's Canada, though. That is Canada. But you're being this is Kelly's problem on TV. Okay, this is why I give him so much heck. I call him Switzerland. Like he's just. There was one night on TV. I got to think of the name where he went after someone, but Kelly's always the
Rennie Bork.
Renee Bork. I'll get to Renee in a second. Kelly's the nicest human being when it comes to everything. It's like just, hey, what would you like? Well, what's good on the menu? Well, if you recommend it, then I'll have it. But Kelly, you're allergic to it. You can't eat it. But she said it was good. I'll have it. So, like when it comes to the Toronto, no, you're being too nice. It's not the media. They got to get until their star players buy in to making the sacrifices what it takes to win. They won't win, and they haven't had that for a while. Wendell was a guy, and you need your core nucleus to be a bunch of guys that'll sacrifice whatever it takes to win. And I think you get that. We got that in with a Duncan Keith and Seabrook and Jonathan Taves. It took Kane a little bit to get there, but that's what they had there. You look at Dowdy, you look at Kopitar, you look at Carter, you look at the guys at Pittsburgh. Crosby's one of the best. They get a Kunitz, they get a Scuderi, they get guys. They have to get that. Bergeron.
Totally.
So Toronto's core doesn't have that yet.
I totally agree, Peach. But I do think that there's more to it than that. I do think that that pressure could be really, really difficult to get over. I mean, I don't know what it would be like to be a Toronto Maple Leaf player under that scrutiny every time you leave the building. And if you're a better player like Austin Matthews or Marner or Nylander or some of those other guys, you could not go anywhere without a comment being said, whether it's a positive or a negative. And I do wonder just mentally how that would affect a person, because that must be impossible. Like Wayne Gretzky had that all the time, but Wayne grew up with stardom, right? Like when he was 8 years old, everybody knew he was going to be that guy. And so I think he learned to deal with it. A lot of these guys, like Austin Matthews, fantastic player, but playing amateur hockey in Phoenix, nobody would have known him, right? And so when you're thrust into the spotlight in Toronto, that's got to be eye-opening. I don't know how you deal with it, honestly. I've told the story many times when I went to LA and I started to become more popular, and I didn't know how to handle it. And Donna had to set me straight one night in our car. And she told me, after I had treated some autograph seekers not as nicely as I should have, she said to me, well, you're going to go back to being the nice guy you used to be. And so it's a long-winded answer again for me, but I think there's more to it than just they've got to figure it out, because and it's a different world, different players, right, Peach? We know players are different. Like they all text and they're buddies, and there's no real hatred anymore. So it's just a different world. And you know what? You and I have to accept it, because it's different, and it's not different. Going back to our day, right?
Our Kathy Broderick from Hockey Night Canada just texted, by the way. It's 3-0 for Columbus just at the end of the first.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're going to be – I don't want Toronto fans to hear this, but I like Columbus in that first round.
I just did a hit on Sportsnet. I told you, and I said that Toronto could be in tough. I mean, I like that Columbus team. How about Torts? You know, people don't know John Tortorella very well, but if you get to know him, and especially if you're in the media and mainstream media, anyways, he treats you with great respect.
Yeah,
And he tells, I love him, right?
Yeah, we all love him because he's. We want coaches. We want coaches like that. I don't like every now and then when he snaps. But some of these reporters' questions are as stupid as they get. Like I'd like to say, like, just shut up with your stupid question. Like, just kind of like. But I love what he does. At times I'm like Torts, but other times,
yes, I know, right? He's an amazing guy, and he's always got lots of time for us. And he's an interesting guy. How about what he said last week about his team? I think they were having the inter-squad games, and he was giving it to the guys after, and you know, that's just motivation, right? That's old school. That's what would have happened in our day, and you don't hear many coaches do that sort of stuff anymore. But he's as Rick Ball, my broadcast partner in Canada or in Calgary, he talks about it. One of his favorite guys ever is John Tortorella, and all his time that he spent with him in Vancouver when Rick Ball was calling Canucks games. So it's an interesting world behind the scenes, right, buddy?
Bruce, I was going to keep you on for like 15, 20 minutes, but we're still drinking wine, so I got a few minutes left, and then I got to let you go.
By the way, I've watched a lot of yours, and they're fantastic. You've got a real knack for the interviewing, and you were never good on Hockey Night in Canada, but you're sure good in this forum.
This is because you're not beside me. You can't turn around and be like, shut up, stupid. So you can't do it. Now you got to look at it this way. Who do you like coming out of the West?
Oh boy, that's. I think there's going to be some upsets, and
well, we just mentioned a couple. Like
now with the Chaika situation in Arizona, that I don't know how that's going to affect them, but I'm a big fan. Like you talked about Talkett earlier. I'm a big fan of Rick and the way in which he coaches. And I was a couple of weeks ago, I did a thing on the NHL Network with Catherine Tappan and Keith Jones, and I said Arizona is going to upset Nashville. I didn't like the season that Johansson or Duchesne were having in Nashville. Now maybe in the pause they can get it right, but I like it. I'll just do this and say I think Vegas is a fantastic team, but Pacioretty's not in Edmonton right now. I don't know when he's going to be back.
What's your thoughts on Colorado?
I like them a lot. They're a very good team. You know, that's one of the, Nathan McKinnon is one of those guys that until you see him live, you really respect him. I've got a great, and man alive, is he something when you see him live. I've got to tell you a story from the year Pittsburgh and Nashville were in the finals. So my lovely wife, Donna, joined me in Pittsburgh and in Nashville, and she's at the game. We're broadcasting, of course. She's watching, maybe one of the first period of the first game, perhaps. And I get a minute to sit with her and talk, and she goes, I get it now. She's watching Crosby. She goes, he's the only guy on the ice that doesn't need a nameplate on the back of his jersey. He stands out so much more than everybody else. And that was such a great statement. And there's certain other players like Nathan McKinnon and a handful of other guys that just when you get to see them live, I remember the first time I saw Matt Murray play goal. I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I've seen a goalie so good. And then, you know, you feel for him now because clearly he hasn't become less talented or technically bad. So you feel for him because what's going on in the head, that he is not the goalie that he once was. He's struggling to find that again. And I, as you know, how I feel about mental health and stuff, I'm cheering for him like crazy. Like
Fleury went funny in Pittsburgh. He said that Fleury had that too in the playoffs for a bunch of years.
Right?
You mentioned Nathan McKinnon. For people that are watching, Ruth, we got to wrap on a couple secs, but Nathan McKinnon, if you guys watch Nathan play, his hands are really high up on his stick.
Yeah.
He probably has the best release with the quickest release. Normally we have to put a little more weight on his stick. He is amazing at and his hands don't move. He can do so much from the same spot. He's just, by the way, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, as Kelly and Donna just mentioned, and now Brad Marchand in Boston. his talent levels up. They all practice
Right?
together out in
Yeah.
Cole Harbor.
Yeah. It's
So
very cool, right?
I know you're going to go two things, Roots. A, you have no ice cubes in your wine tonight.
That's because my bottle of wine was right in the fridge, so I don't need it.
Okay. And you and I hate predictions. We
Right.
hate, but everyone's asking, and
Yeah,
there's Bobby.
I'm going to go Boston, Vegas.
Vegas, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
You?
Boston, like you said, it's like you have the top four in each. I was thinking Washington or Boston, St. Louis.
And you were surprised by Philadelphia when I mentioned them
Yeah.
about their dark horse, right?
They're like my Colorado. I
Yeah.
think Colorado. I'm not sure about the youth on defense and whether or not that can continue.
Yeah.
First two rounds you can survive on that, as you and I know, but round 3 and 4, mind you, there's no fans, so it could be different. It could be different. So, and that's kind of the big thing. How your emotions, you don't get caught up in the highs and lows of some of these games because they don't all have highs and lows. There are a lot of here, so it'll be interesting to watch. Listen, Kelly Hrudey is, and now that he wants to do this, Donna's texted me and says, as long as you can take Kelly away from me an hour a day, I think you guys should do this 3 times a day for the next 2 months. Okay, Donna, I'll text her back after. But
That's too
anyone
funny.
watching the next 2 months of hockey, you're watching one of the greatest in Kelly Hrudey, one of the best people. And just so you know, Vegas, Boston, if he's wrong, tweet him, text him, Instagram him, Snapchat him, email him, and tell him. And to a great family and a great man and all the stuff you do for mental health and everything for your family. To your daughter this weekend getting married.
Thanks,
You're
buddy.
the best, Roots. Cheers,
Thanks.
buddy.
Love you, pal.
Love you, buddy.
Talk to you
Speak soon, bud. Ciao.
Okay, bye.